Hey there, get ready for a fascinating deep dive. Today, we're exploring some predictions about March 2025, and not just any predictions, we're talking astrological forecasts.
Ooh, interesting.
Buckle up because things are about to get interesting.
I'm ready.
Our source is an astrologer named Sandeep, who has analyzed the celestial events of March 2025 and their potential impact on global affairs, economies, and even personal well-being.
Okay, I'm listening.
So the big question is, will March 2025 bring market chaos leading to a long-term recession?
That's a big one.
Sandeep has some surprising insights that might challenge your assumptions about that. So let's dive in.
Now, good, let's do it.
First up, March 2025 is going to be a month full of eclipses and some pretty wild planetary alignments.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy month, cosmically speaking.
There are two major celestial events happening, a total lunar eclipse on March 13th and 14th,
Okay,
and then a partial solar eclipse on March 29th.
I see.
So from an astrological perspective, what do these eclipses mean?
Well, eclipses in astrology are seen as powerful catalysts for change. They can bring hidden things to the surface and shake things up,
Ooh, exciting.
forcing us to confront truths and make adjustments.
Right.
The lunar eclipse happening mid-month is often linked to emotional revelations,
Okay.
disruptions,
Got it.
endings, and even potential shifts in leadership.
So it's like a cosmic nudge to let go of things that no longer serve us.
You could say that, yeah. Now, the solar eclipse at the end of March has a slightly different flavor.
Okay.
It's more about new beginnings,
Okay.
resetting cycles and shifts in governance and policies.
Oh, wow. So almost like a cosmic reboot.
Yeah, exactly, like hitting the reset button.
So you've got these two major eclipses, each with its own energy and potential impact. What else is happening astrologically in March 2025?
Well, and this is where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
The solar eclipse is happening at the same time as a rare six-planet conjunction in Pisces.
Oh, wow.
So we've got Saturn, Venus, Mercury, the Sun, the Moon, and Rahu all clustered together in this sign.
Whoa, that's a lot of planetary energy converging at once.
Right.
I'm starting to understand why Sandeep is predicting some major shifts. Could you break down what this conjunction means in more detail? For someone like me who's fascinated by astrology but doesn't quite speak the language fluently, what should I be paying attention to?
Of course. So let's start with Saturn. It's at 0 degrees of Pisces during this conjunction.
Okay.
Now, Saturn is often associated with challenges, limitations, and karmic lessons.
Right, it's like the cosmic teacher, right?
Exactly, pushing us to grow and learn.
Uh-huh.
Being at 0 degrees kind of emphasizes these themes.
Interesting.
For you, this might manifest as feeling a heightened sense of responsibility, perhaps in your career, or maybe needing to set firmer boundaries in your personal relationships.
That makes sense. Saturn definitely has a reputation for being the taskmaster of the zodiac.
That's a good way to put it.
What about Venus? How does its placement in Pisces play into all of this?
Venus is all about love, beauty, luxury, and yes, even finances. In this conjunction, it's both exalted and retrograde in Pisces. Being exalted usually boosts Venus's positive qualities,
Yeah.
but being retrograde suggests a need to reevaluate these areas.
Oh, I see.
Think delays, revisions, maybe even some second-guessing when it comes to love and money matters.
So while Venus in Pisces might sound dreamy and romantic, the retrograde throws a bit of a curveball into the mix.
Yeah, exactly. We're not looking at straightforward, easygoing energy here.
Gotcha.
Now, along with Venus, we also have Mercury, which rules communication,
Yeah.
travel, and technology.
Okay.
And guess what? It's also retrograde in Pisces during this conjunction.
Really?
Yeah, and to make matters more complex, Mercury is considered debilitated in Pisces, meaning its influence is weakened.
Okay, so we've got two key planets retrograde, which already suggests some potential for delays and disruptions.
Yeah.
I can see how this is starting to build a picture of a potentially volatile period. But what about the sun and moon? I thought they were the stars of the show during an eclipse.
Right.
But in this case, both the sun and moon are being overshadowed by a point called Rahu,
Oh.
which is associated with ambition, illusion, and disruption.
Right, okay.
Rahu is like a wild card.
I see.
It can amplify things, bring hidden agendas to light, and create a lot of unpredictability.
Okay.
So imagine that, Rahu overshadowing the sun and moon during an eclipse.
Yeah, that definitely adds another layer of intensity to the mix.
It does.
So how should we understand Rahu's influence in this particular conjunction?
Well, Rahu in Aquarius can manifest in many ways.
Okay.
For you, it might spark a sudden interest in new technologies, or perhaps you'll find yourself feeling restless in your current job or routines.
Yeah, interesting.
Displacement tends to be more about innovation and forward thinking rather than just pure chaos.
Okay.
Think disruption with a purpose.
Right, so Rahu might actually be a catalyst for positive change,
Yeah.
even if it comes with some initial upheaval.
Exactly, yeah. And then we have to consider the nakshatras involved.
Now, I have to admit, nakshatras are a bit of a mystery to me.
Could you shed some light on what they are and why they're important in this context?
Absolutely. So in Vedic astrology, we also look at nakshatras,
Okay.
which are like smaller constellations within the zodiac.
Uh-huh.
These give us even more nuanced insights into planetary placements.
I see.
The two nakshatras most activated in this conjunction are Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada.
Okay.
They're both ruled by the Rudras, storm deities known for their fierce, transformative energy.
Oh, wow. Storm deities. That sounds intense.
It is. Uttara Bhadrapada is associated with gradual transformation,
Okay.
while Purva Bhadrapada is more about sudden,
Okay.
intense,
Got it.
and unpredictable disruptions.
So, like a storm that clears the way for new growth.
Yeah, it's a good way to think about it.
That's the kind of energy we're dealing with here.
Exactly.
And we're not just talking about metaphorical storms, are we? Sandeep is suggesting these alignments could actually manifest in weather events too, right?
He does, yeah. He mentions the possibility of increased floods and marine incidents.
Oh,
Historically, heavy planetary alignments in water signs like Pisces have been linked to those kinds of events.
that's fascinating.
It's a reminder that these astrological influences aren't just abstract concepts. They can have tangible effects on the world around us.
That's a sobering thought. Before we move on, is there anything else about these planetary alignments that you think is important for us to understand?
Let me think. One more crucial point is that Saturn and Rahu are also conjunct in the Navamsa chart.
Okay.
Think of this as a divisional chart that provides a deeper layer of analysis in Vedic astrology.
Uh-huh.
This intensifies their combined influence and creates a challenging aspect to Jupiter, the planet of good fortune and expansion.
Oh.
Essentially, this alignment weakens Jupiter's ability to protect economies and markets.
So even the planet of good luck is facing some obstacles during this time.
It seems that way. However, it's important to note that Jupiter's not debilitated in this chart.
Okay.
In fact, it's actually moving towards exaltation,
Okay.
meaning it will eventually be in a very powerful position.
Right.
This suggests that while there may be initial setbacks and chaos, there's a potential for long-term recovery and growth.
Okay, so there's a glimmer of hope amidst all this intensity.
Here is.
But let's be honest, the big question on everyone's mind is, are we headed for a recession? With all this talk of market volatility and global upheaval, it's hard not to think about the 2008 financial crisis.
That's a very valid question and one that we'll explore in more detail next.
Okay, good.
Sandeep does draw some interesting comparisons between the astrological conditions of 2025 and those of 2008, and his insights might surprise you.
I'm intrigued. Let's get into it. All right, so let's talk about the word recession. Is 2025 going to be a repeat of 2008?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Sandeep doesn't shy away from addressing it.
Yeah.
He actually compares the astrological climate of 2025 to what was happening back in 2008.
So for those of us who might not remember all the astrological details of the 2008 crash, could you give us a quick refresher? What was happening in the cosmos that contributed to that financial meltdown?
Okay, so back in 2008, Jupiter, the planet associated with growth and expansion, was debilitated in Capricorn,
Okay.
which basically means it was in a weakened position, unable to really do its thing and support economic growth.
Right.
And, to make matters worse, Jupiter was also right next to Rahu, that planet of disruption and illusion we talked about earlier.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And this combination created a lot of fear and uncertainty, especially in the financial markets.
So it's like the cosmic forces were working against financial stability back then.
Exactly, yeah. And to add fuel to the fire, Saturn, the planet of limitations and challenges, was in a tense alignment with Uranus and Pluto. This created a perfect storm for a major shakeup of the financial system.
Right. Yeah.
And, well, we all know what happened.
Right. So how does 2025 look in comparison? Are we staring down the barrel of another huge crisis?
Well, this is where Sandeep's analysis gets really interesting.
Okay.
He acknowledges the potential for volatility, but he doesn't see 2025 as a carbon copy of 2008.
Okay, that's good.
For starters, Jupiter isn't debilitated this time.
Right.
In fact, it's actually heading towards exaltation, which means it's gaining strength.
Okay.
and will eventually be in a very powerful position.
So that's a huge difference. It suggests that even if there is some initial turmoil,
Right.
there's a good chance of recovery and even the potential for growth down the line.
Absolutely. And here's another key difference. Rahu, that planet of disruption,
Mm-hmm.
is in its own sign of Aquarius in 2025.
Okay.
Now, this placement is generally seen as more innovative and forward-thinking rather than purely destructive.
Interesting.
So instead of breaking things down, Rahu in Aquarius might actually trigger a shift towards new industries and technologies.
So instead of a total collapse, we might see the rise of new economic opportunities.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Yeah.
a much more hopeful perspective.
That's really good to hear.
And one more crucial point.
Okay.
In 2025, Jupiter is forming a positive aspect with Rahu.
Okay.
This wasn't the case in 2008.
Right.
This aspect suggests that Jupiter's positive energy can help to balance out some of Rahu's disruptive tendencies.
Right. Okay.
Sandeep interprets this as a sign that while we may see some market fluctuations
Yeah.
in March and April, a full-blown financial crisis is unlikely.
So it seems like 2025, while potentially rocky,
Yeah.
might actually be a time of significant economic transition and even innovation.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond the financial implications, Sandeep also talks about a spiritual dimension to this astrological forecast, doesn't he?
He does.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Sandeep points out that Pisces, the sign that's most activated during this time,
Right.
is inherently connected to spirituality, empathy, and introspection.
So it's not just about external events, it's about how we respond to those events on an inner level.
Precisely, yeah. Sandeep suggests that the challenges we might face in the outer world, whether economic or otherwise, can be catalysts for inner growth and resilience.
That makes a lot of sense. When things get tough, we often turn inwards and seek deeper meaning.
Right. And it's about finding that inner strength and peace, even amidst the chaos.
Yeah.
He encourages people to use this time for self-reflection,
Okay.
to explore spiritual practices,
Uh-huh.
and to cultivate inner peace.
So let's say we're ready to embrace this idea of turning chaos into growth.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps we can take to navigate this potentially turbulent period? Does Sandeep offer any specific advice?
He does.
Okay.
And his recommendations are surprisingly down to earth.
Okay.
First, he advises staying grounded and avoiding impulsive decisions, especially when it comes to finances or major life choices.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the fear and uncertainty,
Uh-huh.
but making rash decisions during this time might not be in our best interest.
That's sound advice. It's a good reminder to pause and reflect before taking action, especially when things feel uncertain. What else does Sandeep recommend?
Well, he also encourages us to use this time for self-improvement. It's an opportunity to learn new skills,
Yeah.
explore new interests,
Yeah.
or finally tackle that project you've been putting off.
I like that. Sometimes it takes a little shake-up to get us moving in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly.
What's his third piece of advice?
Finally, Sandeep suggests embracing spiritual practices
Okay.
for inner peace and clarity.
Mm-hmm.
This could be anything from meditation to mindfulness, exploring spiritual texts, or simply spending more time in nature.
So it's about staying grounded, using the time for self-improvement, and nurturing our spiritual side.
Yeah,
It sounds like a very holistic approach to navigating whatever challenges might arise.
it is. Sandy's approach isn't about fearing the future.
Yeah.
It's about empowering us to face it with awareness and resilience.
It's really fascinating how Sandeep weaves together these astrological insights with practical advice and even a touch of spiritual guidance.
It is, yeah.
You know, it's not just about predicting the future, but about understanding the potential energies at play
Right.
and using that knowledge to navigate the coming months with more awareness and resilience.
Exactly. And I think one of the most exciting aspects of Sandeep's forecast is his emphasis on the potential for new industries and opportunities
Okay.
to emerge from this period of economic transition.
Oh, interesting.
He sees Rahu's placement in Aquarius,
Mhm.
the sign of innovation and technology,
Yeah.
as a key driver of this shift.
So instead of just focusing on the potential downsides, we should also be looking for those emerging trends
Exactly.
and thinking about how we can position ourselves to be part of those changes.
Yes.
Almost like a cosmic invitation to embrace innovation and adaptability.
That's a great way to put it.
So Sandeep doesn't give specifics about what these new industries might be.
All right.
But he encourages us to stay informed, be curious, and be willing to step outside our comfort zones a little bit.
I think that's really good advice.
Yeah.
especially in times of uncertainty.
Yeah, there's always room for growth and new possibilities. Maybe instead of getting caught up in fear, we should be asking ourselves, what emerging trends am I most curious about? How can I use my skills and knowledge to be part of that change?
I love that. I think that's the fantastic question for all of us to consider.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that change is inevitable
Mhm.
and choosing to engage with it proactively and creatively.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Sandeep's astrological forecast, what would you say is the key takeaway for our listeners?
Okay, let me think.
What's the one thing you hope they will remember as we head into 2025?
You know, if we connect all these threads together,
Yeah.
I think the main message is this. March 2025 might bring some challenges. It might shake things up a bit,
Uh-huh.
but it's not a time to panic.
Right.
It's a time to be aware.
Be prepared.
Yes. And most importantly, to be open to the new possibilities that might emerge from this period of transition and transformation.
I love that. It's not about ignoring the potential storms, but learning how to navigate them skillfully. And maybe even finding opportunity within those challenges.
Right, exactly. It raises a thought-provoking question for you.
Okay.
If this period is about economic shifts and new industries emerging, what trends are you most curious about?
Mm.
And how might you position yourself to be part of that change?
That is an excellent question to ponder, and I have a feeling I'll be revisiting it often as we get closer to 2025.
Me too.
Thank you so much for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive into Sandeep's astrological forecast.
It's been my pleasure.
I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
I hope so.
And to everyone listening, thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of astrology and forecasting. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit empowering.
It is an empowering topic.
As always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and questions with us. Until next time, stay curious, stay open to new possibilities, and as always, keep exploring.
Sounds good.